In this video, we're going to take a look at the Countif function. So before we get into the specifics of that function, we're going to use the example from Chapter 2, example 2.1 on page 14 and 15 that deals with the light beer preference survey. But I just want to take a few seconds and explain what a function is. And basically, all a function is a predefined formula, and most of those functions act on a range of cells that you select, and that each range of that cell works as an argument within that function. And a function could have one or more arguments. Some of the more complicated ones have 3 or 4. But we're going to see how it works here in just a second. So in this case, I've got the XM02-01 file open up here. And so it's just got a list of numbers down to, I'm going to just go end down arrow. Oh, maybe not. Sorry. Just want you to see this. We got a bunch of numbers here that go down to 285, and I'm going to hit end up and go back to cell A1 here. So we've got just the numbers in column A, the brand in column B, and there's 7 different preferences. You can see those listed in table 2.1 on page 15, and then it also has gender information that we won't be using in this example. But let's do this. I'm going to indicate the brand right here, and then I'm also going to put the frequency. And what we're going to do is use the Countif function to go through and tell us how many each brand has for how frequently it appears within there. So in this case, I'm just going to type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for all 7 of the brands. And now we'll go over here and we'll use Excel to count the number of people who preferred brand 1. So if I click on this button right here, it's the insert function. I can select a category here. Most recently used is probably the default. If you haven't used it before, we're going to go down to statistical, and then it lists all of these statistical functions, and we're just going to go into the C's, and right here it says Countif. And now you see that Countif counts the number of cells within a range that meet the given condition. So I'm going to click OK, and it's going to bring up the function arguments. In this case, we're going to put in the range, and we could just type that range in, or if I click right here, now I can just select it, click and drag, and I'm going to drag all the way down to cell 286, I believe. There we go. And once the marching ants are around that, you can tell that it's got the Countif B1 to B286. I'm going to click this again, and now I want to put in the criteria. I'm also going to move up the scroll bar on the vertical so we can see it again. In this case, I'll just put the number 1 in. Now that could be a cell, it could be the number we just enter there, so there's different options. Click OK. And what it tells us is that there were 90 people whose brand preference was brand 1. Now we can do it again. Again, watch what happens. If I take this cell and copy it, and then click over here and then hit paste, and now I'm going to hit the escape button. right here, now you see that it's changed, but instead of B1, it's B2. So let me click up here in the formula bar. One of the neat little tricks of Excel is if you click over the edge of the cell selected and drag, you can just move everything up again, and now I can go in and instead of cell 1, put in cell 2 for criteria, hit enter, and now it counts that 19 people had preferred brand 2, which is great, but it's getting a little cumbersome. Again, I could just, the other trick is, right here is called the fill handle in the lower right hand corner. I can click and drag and that's going to copy it down one more cell. Now again, we still have the same problem. If I click there, it dragged it down a cell which I didn't want to do. So I'm going to drag it back up to the right spot, and then I could change this to 3 and hit enter. Now that's all fine, and it takes a little bit longer to do it. I want to show you a quick little shortcut that will save you a lot of time if you learn this. Right now, I'm going to click inside the formula bar, and notice on B1 that it's just that cell reference. If I hit, or if I type in a $sign before the column and row, what that does is make that cell reference an absolute reference. So when I copy this cell now, it's always going to start with B1. It's not going to move down to B2 like it did in those other instances. And I'm going to do the same thing here for the second cell. And I'm going to do something a little different here, in fact. Instead of referencing cell 3, I'm going to delete that and just click on the 3 cell E4, which happens to be the value 3, which is right next to it. And now I'm just going to click to enter. Now watch what happens here. You can see this, that it's got the range B1 to B286 and the value in E4. So if I happen to change this to a 1, for instance, then it automatically gives me the frequency of 1, which you can see as above. It does it correctly. So I'm going to put 3 in here, and it goes back to 62. But if I click here again, and now drag the fill handle, watch that. Now, in this one, it still went B1 to B286. It didn't move down to B2 to B287, and it's using cell E5, so I could copy it all down quite easily. So that's a handy little trick for how you use functions in this case. So I think that's enough for counting frequencies using Countif.